How's it going, everyone? Paul with Adaptable Survival, and in today's episode we're going to talk about 5 survival factors that will keep you alive. So as I stated in the intro, we're going to talk about 5 survival factors that will impact you staying alive in an emergency. Now, I just uploaded a survival priorities video before this one, so this is adding on to that. Now, these aren't necessarily priorities for the situation itself. These are things that come before, or things that we develop before we find ourselves in those situations. Now, we will dive into each one of these, but I just wanted you to kind of understand where I'm coming at with these by splitting priorities and these factors, because the priorities are what you're prioritizing during. These are factors that are going to impact you in that situation, but aren't necessarily something that you're trying to work on as you're out there in that situation. So the first factor is going to be fitness and health. Now, for me, these are kind of one and the same, because if you're staying fit, generally you're healthy. Now, you may have some underlying chronic medical conditions that impact how active you can be, or honestly impact how you're going to be in an emergency situation, both wilderness and urban. But I've always been a big proponent of working on your fitness. Admittedly, I've slacked on this recently myself and kind of gotten out of the habit, so it's something that I'm slowly building back into a routine for myself. So even if you have become extremely fit at one point, you do have, those moments where you can kind of have a downturn, just the peaks and valleys with just about anything else. But working on that fitness not only helps you be prepared to, do what activity you're planning to do or be ready for anything that may occur, but it also generally makes you a little bit more healthier, makes you a little bit more resistant to certain ailments that can happen. Health, I would say, is, how you're medically standing. Are you diabetic? Do you have an amputated leg? So forth and so on. Because each one of those are going to impact you in a survival situation or an emergency situation. If you need critical medicine to stay alive, if the grid is down, probably gonna be pretty hard to get that. So understanding what you can do to prepare yourself for those situations if they were to arrive. One thing with fitness, and generally for me, I've been healthy pretty much my entire life. I don't have very many allergies. I don't really have too many medical issues other than breaking some bones and some sprains and stuff like that. But fitness was a key component to my training I did to become a survival instructor. Think of it as stress inoculation is what I really did. I trained at a pretty high level physically. Granted, I wasn't going to be out in the woods working out and anything like that during these courses, but I knew if physically I was training to a high level, that any stress that came up to that level I can withstand because I've been there before. Anything below that was just kind of a walk in the park for me. So kind of get into that mindset as you're preparing for a backpacking trip or just trying to get more active. Train to whatever you want to do. Now, you don't have to be, a 5-star athlete or anything crazy like that, but raising your fitness level only improves your life, but also your preparedness and capability. So let's dive into awareness. Now, I really think of these as 2 things into one. That one being awareness. But situational awareness and overall awareness, or general awareness, are 2 components to this. Now, situational awareness is what's happening around us currently. There's a game trail there. I know there's a creek this way because I can hear the running water. Those are all things that we're take into account if we are in an emergency situation and trying to prioritize things. We can see, if I head this way, it's a clearing. I can hear water there, I go this way. Those sorts of things. Overall or general awareness is the overall or general awareness of the area we're going to be in. So I know that I'm traveling to, let's say, LA, and this is the area I'm going to be in. What areas should I avoid? Or where is the closest hospital? Or where is my closest resources for an urban setting? In the wilderness, if we're going on the Appalachian Trail, the general awareness is, hey, these are our stops, and you can break it down and have downloadable maps on your phone to say, hey, these are where some different resources are. I mean, you can go into that detail, but just getting a general understanding of where you're at, the local resources. Here in Wisconsin, I know birch bark is plentiful. Some areas have tons of pines. I mean, there's water everywhere here. So I know these things are going to be readily available for me. It's just worrying about, all right, this is where the closest country road is because I'm going to this area to camp for the weekend. That all plays into awareness, and we can develop that over time just by becoming more aware, getting our faces out of our phones, understanding where we're going, getting comfortable with those. And like I said, you can go into extreme detail or just get a real broad look of everything. So let's hit on decision making. Now, just like awareness, I think of these are two particular pillars under this one umbrella. You have critical thinking skills, which are, thinking on the fly, quick, processing things. And then you have more long-term decisions. So critical thinking skills, those decisions on the fly, don't really have to talk about that. I think majority of us understand that. It's just making a decision in that split second and going forth with it. More longer-term decisions, though, even if it's that quick decision, it may have long-term ramifications that impact us. Especially, let's say we're in a wilderness survival situation, drinking this tainted water. Yeah, I'm not dehydrated now, but I may get sick in a couple of days. It's understanding both sides of that coin. Yes, you want to be able to make quick, decisive decisions, but you also want to make decisions that reduce as much risk as possible to you in an emergency situation. If I go right, I go into, a straight shot, but it's extremely dangerous, or I can take a more longer route to the left and avoid all of that. These are all things you have to weigh out and balance. And a lot of times you'll find, even in life, and I'm sure many of you can agree with this, is there's not always going to be a great decision. You just have to take the decision that gives the less blowback or the less risk. And that's no different for emergency situations. Be able to make those quick, fast, decisive decisions, but also weigh out, all right, what's going to be the long-term ramifications if we do this or if we do that. Number 4 is gear selection. Now, when it comes to gear selection, I always tell people there's no right or wrong answer. It really comes down to 3 things. What you're willing to carry, what you're going to do, and how much you're willing to spend. Because those 3 things are going to impact everything else. I can save money and go with surplus gear, but it's probably going to be pretty heavy, and it may not be suitable for what I'm doing. If I'm doing a thru hike, I sure as hell ain't carrying no surplus gear. If, I am doing a thru hike, I might want to shell out the extra coins so I'm not so beat up on the trail every single night. These are all things you have to take in consideration when we're buying that gear, understanding what we're going to use that gear for. There's definitely a time and place for items to do a lot of things for us, but sometimes we have to be realistic in our expectations that one piece of gear, yes, it may do 10 things really well, but can we break that up into 2 or 3 things that do them to an even better level for us? All things you have to consider. And like I said, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just answering for yourself how much I want to carry, how much I'm willing to spend, because if you buy gear at all, that price, point can really skyrocket really, really quick on you. Ask me how I know. I buy too much stuff as it is. But make the decision on what you're going to do, and then start tailoring the gear and finding that fine balance. Maybe I don't need an ultralight pack. Maybe I can just buy a lot of ultralight gear to go inside of the pack, save me a little bit money, because a lot of ultralight packs cost a lot, but I can carry more lightweight gear that's more compact. Maybe I don't need such a big pack after all. All things we can take into consideration as we get out there, learn more, gain more experience, and develop our skills, our mindset, and our capabilities. So let's hit on the final factor of resource utilization. And just like awareness and decision making, I think of two subcategories under this one term. Number one being whatever resources are outside of ourselves or in the environment that we're going to. Think of an urban setting. If we're traveling somewhere, I want to know, what, public transit's available and how close that is to where I'm going to be at, how far I have to go to get back to the airport or get to the local police department. If you're in a foreign country, the local consulate, if that's a concern for you. In a wilderness setting, it's understanding what resources are going to be available to us. So let's say I wanted to start a bow drill for practice, or if I was in a survival situation, understanding, all right, these are the softwoods that are prevalent in this area and that are going to be the best resource for me to utilize. Flip side of that is the resources that we take with us. Now, obviously, we're going to have a pack full of resources depending on what we're doing and where we're at. But the one I want to highlight for this is the caloric resource that we're bringing with us. Our body stores calories in the form of glucose and fats and proteins. So if I am, let's say, in a wilderness survival situation, do I want to expend those precious calories if I don't have anything to replace them by building huge shelters and cabins in the woods? Most likely not, because that's going to use a lot of those resources, and now we're basically making a short-term decision that's going to give us a gain of, oh, great, I got a shelter, but now the long-term downfall is, hey, I burned up all that resource, and now I'm struggling to go down to the creek and get water, or go out, set traps, or gather food off the landscape. So understanding how that utilization of resources comes into play, both in the short-term and long-term, can really make the difference in an emergency situation. If you're in a bug out situation, understanding, hey, if we burn through X resource so much, we won't hit another cache, or we won't hit where we're going in time to refill that resource. So weigh those things out as you are becoming more prepared, building more capabilities in yourself, so that when the time comes, if you do need to make those decisions, you can make the best decisions with those resources you possibly can. So that was running through 5 survival factors that will impact us in an emergency situation, but may not be something that we're going to prioritize while we're in that situation. If you've seen the general theme with a lot of my videos, I'm trying to build a lot of foundational knowledge. So if you're just getting started, or if you know someone that's just getting started, you can say, hey, watch this playlist. He goes through tons of different topics and just starts to plant that seed. And however you want that to flourish, you can go in whatever direction you see fit that best fits your situation. As always, leave me some comments down below. Let me know what you liked about the list, what you didn't like, what would you add, what would you subtract, how your perspective differs from mine. I'm a firm believer in that we can learn something, even if it's the smallest of things, from one another, and I always look forward to seeing that in the comment section down below. Do me a favor and hit like, share, and subscribe. That gets more eyes on the community that we are building here. Helps bring those people into the community so we can grow our knowledge base and learn together and grow together. As always, this has been Paul with Adaptable Survival. Adapt your mind, your body, and your gear.